Washington confirms it secretly sent ATACMS long-range missiles to Ukraine for use on the battlefield.
Europe must continue stepping up aid to Ukraine even after recent US aid package, says German Chancellor Olaf Scholz.
Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez suspends public duties after a court opens a corruption inquiry into his wife. Israel says it's moving ahead with plans to launch a full-scale ground offensive on the southern Gazan city of Rafah. Government spokesperson David Mencer said the target is 4 Hamas battalions reportedly based in the city, warning they cannot be shielded from Israel. The Israeli government previously declared Rafah a safe zone, and more than half of Gaza's population of 2.3 million sought shelter there. Meanwhile, at the United Nations, the senior humanitarian coordinator for Gaza says the future for many is hanging in the balance as the agency continues to work against difficulties.
The health infrastructure in Gaza has been decimated. The few hospitals still standing struggle to operate due to severe shortages of supplies and frequent power outages. As summer draws near and temperatures rise, communicable diseases threaten to sweep through Gaza.
Israel says aid has begun moving into Gaza more quickly after international pressure to increase access. Officials say 468 trucks entered the territory on Tuesday, but those numbers have been disputed by the United Nations and the Red Crescent. The UN says some trucks were only half full because of inspection rules. The United States has confirmed that it secretly sent ATACMS long-range missiles to Ukraine for use on the battlefield against Russia. President Joe Biden approved their delivery in February and March, and Ukraine has reportedly used them twice.
We've already sent some. We will send more now that we have additional both authority and money. I'm not going to get into specific numbers for operational reasons. I believe they will make a difference.
Jake Sullivan said the decision to provide Ukraine with ATACMS came after Russia procured ballistic missiles from North Korea. In his nightly video address, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked Washington for passing a new military aid package which includes 57 billion euros for Ukraine.
Я вдячний президенту Байдену, Конгресу, усім американцям, які відчувають, що потрібно вибивати землю з-під ніг у Путіна, не підкорятись йому. І лише так буде дійсно менше загроз свободі.
In a post on X, Zelensky said Kyiv has intelligence that Russia plans to disrupt the Global Peace Summit in Switzerland in June. He said Moscow has a specific plan how to reduce the number of participating countries. Switzerland hasn't said which countries will be attending the two-day event in Lake Lucerne, but admitted it was unlikely that Russia would attend.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said Europe must continue to step up aid for Ukraine even after the approval of recent US aid package. He said this following a meeting with the UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Germany and the UK are Europe's largest suppliers of military assistance to Ukraine.
Dass wir den europäischen Pfeiler der NATO stärken müssen, auch und ganz besonders, wenn es darum geht, über ein ausreichendes Abschreckungspotenzial zu verfügen. Denn unsere europäische Fähigkeit zur Abschreckung und Verteidigung muss immer glaubwürdig sein.
Sunak said the UK pledged to send arms worth £500 million to Ukraine. Both nations prepared to launch a new joint industrial programme to develop artillery systems, with investment by German companies in the UK exceeding £8 billion. In their meetings, the two leaders also discussed security, trade and migration.
How it's configured, so us and the Germans, we've operated together for a number of years. It just highlights what we do and work together. No, that's
Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has suspended public duties and says he will take time to stop and reflect on whether to remain in the job. That comes after a court opened a preliminary corruption inquiry into his wife. But some opposition politicians were quick to criticize the move, saying Sanchez was betting on victimization and pity.
Creemos que en lugar de desaparecer 5 días, el presidente debe de aparecer de manera urgente para dar una explicación razonada de los escándalos que rodean a su partido, a su gobierno y a su pareja.
Se desconoce si Pedro Sánchez anunciará su dimisión como presidente del Gobierno o si continuará al frente del Ejecutivo. Una de las opciones es que plantee una cuestión de confianza en el Congreso para que el Pleno del Parlamento vuelva a otorgarle, en su caso, el apoyo para que siga al frente del Gobierno. Otra opción es que anuncie su dimisión y proponga a otro candidato socialista, pero esto acarrearía la apertura de consultas con el jefe de Estado y el nuevo candidato tendría que someterse a una votación de investidura en el Congreso de los Diputados. Pedro Sánchez también podría anunciar que continúa en el Gobierno hasta el 29 de mayo, plazo en el que por ley podría convocar unas nuevas elecciones generales que se celebrarían previsiblemente en el mes de julio. Sea cual sea la decisión del presidente del Gobierno, Pedro Sánchez ha hecho de nuevo saltar el tablero político español y su decisión marcará sin duda el próximo ciclo electoral. En Madrid, Jaime Velázquez, Euronews.
Portugal is celebrating 50 years of democracy. The Portuguese Revolution granted citizens many rights, but what remains to be done in the country today?
Não é só direitos, liberdades e garantias, o Estado Social e segurança no emprego e proteção no emprego. Porque muitas dessas coisas retrocederam, infelizmente, a partir do final dos anos 80. O que ficou do que passa foi a percepção de que é possível viver de outra maneira.
Undoubtedly, Portugal's economy is now better than 50 years ago, but it suffers from low productivity and bad working conditions, as well as low-quality public services compared to other European countries.
Há, sobretudo, a partir do século XXI, uma intensa degradação dos serviços públicos com uma alta remuneração dos capitais pela via do juro, portanto, por via de empréstimos, da dívida pública, etc., o que vai destruir a capacidade instalada, a capacidade de produzir do país e também erudir os serviços públicos.
Efetivamente, Portugal continua na cauda da Europa Ocidental, continua a ser o país mais pobre da Europa Ocidental. Portanto, Portugal não melhorou a situação relativa que tinha em termos relativos, em termos de ranking dos países. Portugal continua a ser o mais pobre, o último, o mais atrasado em termos do capital humano, em termos nos níveis de educação da sua população, continua a ser o último da lista da Europa Ocidental, em termos de o funcionamento das instituições políticas.
Portugal is reliant on money from the European Union. However, enlargement of the bloc may result in a decrease in available funds for the country.
Em vez de serem salvação do país, como são muitas vezes vistos e assim descritos pelos atores políticos, sendo uma bazuca que vai salvar o país, chuva de milhões, não sei o quê, que vai servir para salvar o país, na realidade estes fundos têm efeitos muito negativos, tanto para a economia portuguesa, em particular para a parte da economia que está sujeita à concorrência internacional, os chamados bens transacionáveis, e o setor transacionável da economia, por um lado, e por outro lado também tem efeitos negativos para o processo político que existe em Portugal. No fundo, os fundos europeus são uma espécie de pensos rápidos ou aspirinas que vão escondendo a doença da sociedade portuguesa, a doença da economia portuguesa.
Portugal also scores low on the Democracy Index, implying the country has steps to take to improve its government.
Voters in North Macedonia cast ballots on Wednesday for a president they hope will oversee the country's long-anticipated entry into the European Union. 7 candidates were in the running for the largely ceremonial position, and the contest is expected to go to a May runoff on the same day as parliamentary elections. Campaigning was largely focused on progress towards joining the EU, the rule of law, and fighting corruption. Visitors to Venice who fail to pay the entry fee to the historic city centre will face fines starting at 10 times the €5 ticket price. Starting this year, tourists will have to pay to enter the lagoon city, a move authorities have introduced to clamp down on the effects of over-tourism.
We need to find a balance, a new balance between the tourist and the resident. We need to safeguard the spaces of the resident, of course, and we need to discourage the arriving on day trippers in some particular days.
Venice has long suffered from excessive tourism, and the pilot entry charge, which will be in place on 29 days between April and July, is an attempt to limit visitor numbers. But some locals aren't convinced the entry fee will have any real impact.
Che siano chiari dove vengono investite tutte queste risorse, tutte queste entrate, perché se mi dicono che rimettono a posto le migliaia e migliaia di case che sono sfitte in questa città, allora penso che potrebbe anche essere sostenibile, per quanto io sia contro. E quindi, ma in realtà non sarà così, perché continuano a svuotarsi i residenti, questa città continua a far aumentare il turismo.
Officials say the scheme aims to reduce crowds on peak days, encourage longer visits, and improve the quality of life for residents. But it doesn't apply to anyone staying in Venice.